Carnival School in St. Peter's and Albertus Magnus. My three kids went to the North Rockland School and graduated from them. I'm presently the vice president of the Continental Public Library, and I'm a member of the Stony Point United team. And I think we don't want to hear about me too much. We want to hear about what we want to talk about today. And I thought I'd start today by just familiarizing ourselves with the Patriot Hills Golf Club. And so just gonna.
No, this isn't some private golf course in Westchester, Long Island, or Putnam County. This is Patriot Hills, right here in the town of Stony Point. And if you pay taxes in Stony Point, this public golf course belongs to you. But now some people are saying we should sell Patriot Hills, that the golf course doesn't make enough money, that it can't compete with other golf courses. Well, let's hear what the experts have to say. In 2021, golfers choice that Patriot Hills is one of the finest golf courses in all of New York State. And they rated Patriot Hills number 16 out of 254 courses in New York. Then there's this from the Golf Advisor, a 95.7 approval rating for the Patriot Hills, giving the full 5 stars. And the prestigious Golf Now awarded Patriot Hills with a 95.5 approval rating, also giving it a full 5 stars. With ratings like this, is it any surprise that Patriot Hills is doing a booming business? Since 2016, the number of rounds played has ranged from a low of 25,000 during the COVID pandemic to 29,000 in 2016. That's a lot of golfers. In fact, the national average for rounds played is 24,000, so there's never been a year, not even during COVID, that we haven't surpassed the national average for rounds played. And it's not just people from Stony Point either. According to the town board, thousands of rounds of golf are played at Patriot Hills each year by people who traveled here from surrounding areas. And all those visitors are good for local businesses, providing a much-needed boost for our community. Just imagine how many more visitors we could get with the right marketing and promotion. It's really pretty simple when you look at the facts. Our golf course is one of the best and most highly rated ones in New York State. Our local businesses make money from visiting golfers, and our gem of a golf course is open to the public, to the people of Stony Point. Sorry, Westchester, but this one's ours.
So that's just to give you a little sense of the golf course if you're not familiar with it. What we're going to focus our conversation on, by the way, that's a healthy course. For a small town public course, doing that kind of business is doing really pretty well. So we're going to focus most of our conversation this morning on the Stony Point Rising plan that we really see for this property. And that is to operate the golf course in the black, to ensure that this property stays in the hands of the Stony Pointers, and that we revitalize Letchworth Village. And that plan really focuses on, first, the golf course. So operating the golf course in the black, it's not that the golf course doesn't make money. The golf course brings in close to $2 million a year. For a small town municipal course, that is a good amount of money. The problem is how that money is spent. And 4 employees, just as an example, 4 employees and some full-time town employees and some seasonal part-timers are paid more than $1.2 million a year in salary and benefits. When we've done our research, we found that surrounding golf courses have gone to golf management companies. Surrounding golf courses like Broad Acres in Orangetown, Blue Hill in Pearl River, and Spook Rock in Ramapo. And in our conversations with the finance director of Orangetown, he reported to us that his course was running at an $800,000 deficit. And by partnering with one of these golf management companies, they're now operating in the black. So first order of business for us, before we sell off our $25 million investment, is to look at and partner with a golf management company, a professional golf management company. Our costs are too high, the way we're doing it now with town employees. Second, we want to reopen the Patriot Hills Grill and the catering hall. The grill and the catering hall by themselves, I don't know what happened there, they bring in over $1.1 to $1.2 million per year by themselves, as standalone. And we, as a town, Stony Point, gets a percentage of that revenue. So I think it's an important part of the golf course success and operating in the black, get those things reopened. And finally, we want to rezone, it's not up there, but I'll just go through it. We want to rezone the property. Right now, it's zoned for 5-acre housing, the golf course portion. We want to rezone it for recreational. That just gives us an added layer of protection going forward, that this will never be developed as housing. Phase 2 of the plan, this is the Stony Point Rising Plans. That was phase 1, operating the golf course in the black, reopening the Patriot Hills Grill and Catering Hall, and rezoning the property. Phase 2 focuses more on revitalizing Letchworth Village, and the way we envision that is creating a safe space and a welcoming space for Stony Pointers to engage with each other, engage with recreational facilities, and which could be anything from a farmer's market to a picnic to recreational complex that we envision, and we'll go into that now. So, let me just put this.
We're hearing a lot of static from the town board these days about the buildings at Letchworth Village. They say the buildings are decrepit, that they have no value and they should be torn down. Well, let's cut through the static and get to the facts. 6 out of 10 of these so-called decrepit buildings are currently in use. There's Kirkbride Hall in the Row Building, a gathering place for young and old and the site of countless community meetings. The Patriot Hills Restaurant Catering Hall and the Cornell Cooperative Extension. And even the town court is here. Now, if all of these buildings are as decrepit as the town board claims, then why are they filled with people every day? Why haven't they been condemned? The fact is, there's nothing wrong with these buildings that some maintenance and repair couldn't fix, and the town has the money to do it. Because here's another fact. By deferring maintenance on these buildings, the town has amassed a $5 million surplus. So why not do what other river towns have done and use that $5 million to repurpose our older buildings? Why should towns like Cold Spring and Beacon get all the tourists and new businesses, when we have Patriot Hills, one of the top 16 golf courses in New York State? We have the Hudson River, the Stony Point Battlefield. We are the gateway to Bear Mountain and Harriman State Park, and we have Letchworth Village. Maybe the only thing we're missing is a little imagination. So the next time you start hearing static from our local politicians about Letchworth Village, just remember the facts. Let's not sell off our assets and our future.
Obviously, we're having some technical difficulty, but we'll work through it. So obviously, we talked about the buildings, and there are issues there, right? That we have buildings up there, we're not going to sugarcoat it. Some of them are beyond repair, some of them can be repaired. We're using 6 out of 10 of those buildings today, by the way. Okay, that's Kirkbride, Row, the golf course, catering hall, the town, the golf course maintenance garage, the town court, and I'm missing one. Somebody help me. What is it? Cornell Cooperative Extension. So our first order of business in the Stony Point Rising Plan is to subdivide each of those buildings into its own lot. Now that's not our idea. That was an idea that was brought forth by the consulting group Turner and Miller in 2014 when they were commissioned by the town to come in and give them some advice about how to develop Letchworth Village. They said it'd be easier to sell off individual buildings. We believe that subdividing the property that way, so each building's on its own lot, gives us a lot more flexibility on how the property's developed and opens up many, many more options for how we create what we want to up there. The second is to remove and renovate buildings. There's some buildings that are going to have to be removed, and there are some buildings that will be renovated. And we believe we could prioritize those, and the highest priority goes to the Row Community and Senior Center. Obviously, that's where we got to go first, because that's the building that's used the most. We also want to create recreational facilities up there, and those could range a whole type of things. One of the things, walking paths, biking paths, the skate park that's been talked about and funds have been raised for several years now behind the scenes could be up there. Bocce courts, you name it, we could have it up there. It's what the community would like to back in 2003 when we bought this property. That's exactly what the community said they wanted, was recreational facilities up there. And there was a whole town pool, a whole host of ideas that people had for how they wanted to use this property. We also think taking one of these buildings and creating a teen center, a place where young teenagers have a place to meet, get involved in teenage community activities in a safe and supervised environment. There's really no place for them to go right now. We also thought it would be really nice to construct an outdoor amphitheater where the town residents could be taking part in cultural activities, music events, theater, movie nights, and with the possibility at some point we get sponsors for certain events and bring some revenue into the town. So the question that you all have is, okay, that all sounds great. Sounds great. How are we going to pay for this? So we have a plan. First is to utilize not the entire $5 million. I understand there are a lot of needs in this town, but to take a portion of the $5 million surplus that's sitting in the coffers of the town right now and use a portion of that for some of the ideas in this Stony Point Rising plan. The second is to create a Stony Point Rising Fund. And how is that done? The way we envision it is we take the last bond payment, which is $600,000, which is going to be in this year's budget coming up. That starts January 1st. That's the last big one. And we maintain that in the budget, even though the bond goes away, so that $600,000 is there every year. And when we need to renovate those buildings, which will take, it's not going to be done overnight, it'll take 5 to 7 years to remediate, take down the buildings, that we have that money steadily coming in every year. It does not raise taxes, it freezes the budget where it is today. And it gives the town some capital so that they can invest where they need it. And that may be things like, over time, 5, 6, 7 years from now, buying things like Camp Boulevard. Being able to go down to the waterfront when a piece of property comes up to add to our parkland down there. Right now, we don't have it. But building that with Stony Point Rising Fund gives us that opportunity to do those things in the future. Finally, we see utilizing every possible avenue from the state, from the federal government, and also from private-public partnerships to develop that property and to bring dollars in for the Stony Point Rising plan. So the plan assumes that we continue control of the property by the taxpayer of Stony Point, and it avoids this uncertain future. It just bothers me to hand the deed over to 265 acres of very valuable Hudson Valley real estate to an uncertain future. Because you know what, no matter what anybody says, no one can predict the circumstances of the future. And circumstances change. Personal circumstances can change. Somebody can get ill. Somebody can retire, move away. Financial circumstances can change, and economic circumstances can change. So the only way to protect us is not to give it up. So I just want to play this.
If you live in Rockland County, you've seen this movement before. Developers building high-density housing, forever changing the rural character of our communities. It's happened in Airmont. It's happened in Chestnut Ridge. It's happened in Pomona, and it's happened in Clarkstown. And if our town board gets its way, it could happen in Stony Point. You see, once the Patriot Hills Golf Course and Letchworth Village are sold to one developer, that developer can turn around and sell it to someone else. It's all perfectly legal. And when that happens, the future of Letchworth Village and the golf course are mostly out of our control. Our local politicians tell us not to worry about high-density housing. They say the town's zoning laws will protect us. Funny how they forgot to mention something called the Fair Housing Act. Developers use this law to sue towns and challenge their zoning laws, tying up the town in years of litigation. Meanwhile, the building goes on. Just ask the people in Airmont, who lost 2 such lawsuits and faced a third. Ask the people in Chestnut Ridge, which is fighting 2 zoning lawsuits. Ask the people in Clarkstown or Pomona who are in court to prevent a religious school and apartments on 130 acres. Let's not have this movie play in Stony Point. Vote no on the referendum and keep control where it belongs, with the people of Stony Point.
Well done.
And it keeps the entire 265-acre property safely in our control. So we own this property, we've invested in this property. Let's not sell off one of our most important assets. We owe it to our kids and our grandkids. Once that property's gone, we'll never get it back. I just saw on tonight's board agenda, right of first refusal. And I want to get out in front of this. Once the hotel goes in there, once that property starts to, the millions that the developer wants to put it into that property, if he ever sells it, we're never going to be able to afford to buy it back. That right of first refusal is just a big leaf, because they've been hearing our talk and been hearing us talk about keeping this in our possession. So I'd like to see this property stay with the people of Stony Point. Thank you. And we're open to questions now.
Could you give an example of some of the public-private partnerships that you might engage in this?
Yes, there is actually, in New York State, there's a organization that works on helping provide money to develop plans for revitalization of old buildings, removal of old buildings. So they'll come in, they won't give you the $500,000 you might need to take down one of these buildings because they have hazardous waste, asbestos, as we all know. But they will come in and give us $10,000, $15,000 to create the plan, to do it, to get things in place, to do all of the, whatever certifications are necessary. So yes, there are those types of things. There are also public partnerships and private partnerships that help us develop the park and recreational facilities. So there's a lot there that we can tap into. And it's important that we tap into, and even Mr. Amar himself, he'd be a great person to tap into to help us develop that property. Yes.
So you talked about subdividing some of the building areas. How large would the lots be after they're subdivided?
Gee, I couldn't tell you that. There's 24 acres there, and there are 10 buildings. One of the buildings is the golf club, so that would be up there, that wouldn't count. So the lower, I'm thinking there's 9 buildings in the lower part, starting at Row, and going back towards where the golf maintenance building is, down by the dog park. So I would imagine each one's about an acre or so, or 2 acres, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yes.
I'm curious, and this may sound foolish, but I'm curious, the current septic systems in that area, you know, that Letchworth land, and the future one that you're talking about, subdividing.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with
So
that.
the
I
current,
couldn't answer
how
that.
do they handle septic right now? Do you know?
No, I don't.
I think there's sewers in there.
Does anybody have that?
No, but I think there's sewers on the main road now, so septic would probably no longer be utilized.
I think that's regular public, from what I know.
Other questions? Yes.
When everybody else is done, I have a few. All right, so,
Excuse me, oh, wait. So is that, how do you feel, let me pull out a couple of questions. How do you feel about the Stony Point Rising plan that we just presented? You know, one of the things we've been portrayed as a special interest. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. I've coached CYO, immaculate CYO basketball, soccer, you know, the whole thing that we do as in a community. Rockland Royals, basketball, you name it, you know, we've done it. And to say that we're a special interest, Stony Point United, is ridiculous. Because who stands to make a profit on this? Not us. This is such a long shot. It's so easy to go along with this. There's someone promising to come in and just wave a magic wand and make everything better and everything go away. And that is not the way to do it as a community. That's not the way to do it as a community. We can build this the way we want it, if we put ourselves to it. Yes.
That's one of my questions is, I mean, we've all wanted this
Yes.
forever. And I mean no disrespect, and there's a lot of people that mean well. Actually, how do we get it done if we haven't been able to do it yet?
Well, I can't vouch for why it hasn't been done, okay?
It's a huge
It
undertaking.
has, it's not huge. The golf course, almost the golf course is there.
Yeah.
The golf course is gonna run in the black. that whole thing about the golf course is gonna suck this town into a black hole.
Well, I agree, it's the
Okay.
management. We
It's
need
management, we
We
can
need
deal with
business
that.
people.
The revenue's there, we just have to deal with our costs. The second thing is revitalizing the 24 acres. That is a task, and it's gonna take 5 to 7, maybe even 8, 9 years, and it's gonna take commitment. Now, is the town board, as it's presently constructed, gonna do that? I don't know, but we really, as citizens, should demand it. That this is what we want, and we need to move forward and start to make some of these changes. Now, this is not political. I don't want this to be political. There's people of all stripes that are either before, one side of this issue or another. And I'm not saying it's all one-sided, but we as citizens, like you said, have wanted this since 2003. This is what the original plan that people have totally forgotten for Letchworth was. Yes?
Yeah, I was on the original land use committee. I was on the recreation committee. There were 5 committees. We made the proposal. We won the day for the golf course, but I want to say that this plan is completely consistent with the vision that we had. The vision was that this would be a full-service area for all the residents of Stony Point, not just golfers, the swimming pool, bocce courts, you name it, horseback riding. We had visions of everything there for the town, and unfortunately, the ball was dropped miserably by town fathers. And there is opportunity costs galore up there that are going untapped. There's many options that can be done. I happen to work at the golf course. I'm retired. I work there. I see it every day. Every day we have people come up here for the first time, and they are amazed at the beauty. The way the golf course is maintained is magnificent. There is no major investment has to be done up there in order to run it. You mentioned the caterer. I would almost say we should run the catering operation ourselves. If they were paying us $200,000 a year, what could we make if we kept all of the revenues in the house? All you have to do is hire a food and beverage director. There's a lot of opportunity there, none of which has been looked into. And I think it needs to get a fair hearing. I think it needs to have a task force, a committee of people, just like we did the land use committees, a committee of people to take charge of it, and to your point, force the town to do the right thing up there and to take over if Raj can fix these buildings, we can fix these buildings. Okay, so, why not take over and just do it? So.
Thank you.
It's very quick on the buildings. I know many of you do know, maybe your kids went to Fieldstone, but some of those same buildings are integrated in the Fieldstone school. They're part of it, and that school has won architectural awards. If you've been in there with your kids, you know what a nice building it is. And that's just an illustration. People say, what can you do with the buildings? That's something that was done with some of those buildings, and it's part of that beautiful school. And you can just say, take a look up there, because you can see the middle sections are similar to the buildings that we're talking about.
And Jim, the catering hall and the golf course are also repurposed buildings.
Yeah.
On the field.
Hey, the Cornell extension, yay Cornell, is there.
Yes.
I want to point out, since we're at the Chamber of Commerce, one of the most important factors that we haven't spoken about, and that is in 2019, the town went out for a bond anticipation note. And when you do that, you have to go to the bonding agencies and say, how much is your property worth? What is the equity in your town? So it could increase the rate it gets on selling its bonds. The town in 2019 estimated the value of Patriot Hills Golf Course at $13 million. $13 million. If we give up this, where is the equity in Stony Point? We are giving up the one equity that we have to anticipate further bonding that might be necessary in case of a disaster, or in case the sewer system really is totally inadequate. We're putting on so many more houses in Stony Point, 163 trailers, 271 apartments, an anticipated building, a 91 unit apartment on Route 9W. I don't think, as business people, you would give up your equity, and that's what we're being asked to do. And I think that is just the most salient point that we have to think about as people who are investing already $24 million into this. You don't give it up and get pennies on the dollar. Nobody who has a mortgage would ever do that. We would be going to the old use of Letchworth if we kept on doing that. So just please, this isn't political. It's absolutely public administration and looking at what we have as our equity, and you just can't give that up. We just can't give that up.